We have a couple of layers of shading in place, so now let's take a look at doing some highlights. And the way I'm going to do highlights is actually the exact same way I did shading. So let's take a look at our skin shading layers. Now first off, I'm going to rename shading 1 copy to shading 2. I'm going to grab my skin shading 2 layer and we'll duplicate it, and we'll change the name from skin shading 2 copy to skin highlight 1, and put a space in there because I'm picky about it. We might, it's possible you could get away with just one highlight. It's going to depend on how shiny you want your object to look, but that'll be up to you. Now, here's the deal. I'm still going to paint with 50% gray. So, that sounds a little bit freaky at first, but if we step over here, and let's just pick on an area of his tummy, because, his tummy starts to swoop upward, and the plane of it would start to have a brighter area, probably right in here, like a big patch. It's going to start to get lighter because the sun, the lamp, the light bulb, whatever, is actually hitting it directly. So if I fill this in, you could think of this as a patch that should be lit. But right now, of course, it doesn't look lit because we still have one of these shading layers. All I'm going to do is take my blend mode and switch it over to screen. And that immediately starts to lighten it up. Now, the catch here is that you'll notice some other things happened all across the other areas of shading. That is because of the original pixel information that copied over from my skin shading 2 layer. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit Control A on this layer, and then I'll grab my lasso tool and we'll go to a subtractive selection, and we'll deselect this. Actually, did it grab everything? Make sure it did. And let's just hit delete. There we go. So I cleared that out, but it saved what I was painting a second ago. So, again, all we're doing is we're just changing that blend mode over to screen, and you can see that lightens instead of darkens. But I think that's a little bit too bold. That's a little bit too much lightening for a single layer. So I'm going to cut my opacity in half. Pull this down to about 20. And see, now we have a subtle amount of highlight starting to take place that we can build on. We can add another layer if we want to, but it's all using the exact same color. We know immediately going in that if our shading is always going to be based on a 50% gray, we're just adjusting those various levels of opacity. And again, the great thing about doing this is now if we go and change colors, that shading and the highlight is going to update accordingly to give us a shading and or a brighter and a darker area. As I forget what it is I'm talking about. Okay, so strangely enough, I kind of like this little panel of highlight area that I've created. So I'm going to save that, but I'm going to kind of clean it up a little bit because that came together a little too quickly and it's a little sloppy. So we'll just clean up the actual section. We'll build that up a little bit. It's kind of off to the side, which, the light's off to the side, so that helps figure out what it should be shaped like. And again, if you're unsure, just guess. Do what feels right, and if it doesn't look right, come back and change it. If you are really lost and you just can't feel the surface, take some time out, drop down another layer, and try to imagine drawing a wireframe across the entire surface. And by doing that, you're going to start to see where each of those planes are oriented, and that should help you see which ones are pointed more at the light and which ones are pointed away. It's a little more time-consuming, but it's a good exercise if you're completely lost, or at least if you're not really feeling the shading for the character the way you feel you should be. All right, so we'll do a patch of light here for the pectoral. And we'll do another one over here for the shoulder. And we'll get the opposite pectoral. And maybe that's a little bit too far down there. So you get this kind of toon-rendered look, but actually before all is said and done, we're going to be cleaning that up too and giving this a much more airbrushed kind of feel, or actually almost kind of a hybrid, where some parts will be smooth and other parts won't. Let's put a little bit of a highlight here across the tops of the collarbones to kind of help accentuate those. And maybe a little bit here on the neck. So that's getting some bright lights. We'll put a little square over here on the shoulder like it's catching some direct lighting. Start to grab this area of the bicep. And then we'll just finish that off, moving down. And a little bit right up there at the top of the arm. And I'll just make kind of a little diamond shape that kind of starts to fall down the hand here. And we'll just assume that not all of this is turned so close to the actual light source. Okay, so here, I'm thinking really just highlights on the uppermost surfaces. So that would be like the top of this leg, maybe some what's going on here at the front of the calf or the shin, but not much else. Yeah, maybe a little bit right here, but not much. And then maybe just a little right in here. I think I would leave it there. I don't want to overshine things. Let's jump up here to the face. So naturally he's going to need a section on his nose. That nose just hangs out there. Do a little bit at the cheeks. Probably gloss up his lip a little bit, make that a little bit shinier. Do a little patch for his chin, be kind of a diamond shape. And of course we'd have the tops of the brows. And a nice section of the forehead that kind of outlines the shape of the brows. Alright, and let's see, we could probably put a little bit of highlight over here on the ear, and then start to get, well, I don't know about all that. Yeah, let's back that out. If you really wanted to, though, you could probably kind of accentuate the differences in those little chunks have been taken out of his ear, but you don't really need to do that. It's just kind of for the fun of it. And I'll put a little bit right here at the tip of his ear. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else. Put a little bit right here across the top of his lip. And I guess we got to take care of this arm. We didn't even touch that yet. So a lot of this is really, seems to be really pointing at the light. So. Okay, and maybe just a little bit here on the bicep. And I think that's everything as far as the skin goes. So what I'm going to do is, instead of calling the video here, let's go ahead and do a second layer of highlight. So what I'll do is grab my skin highlight layer, we'll duplicate it, and let's rename it from Skin Highlight 1 copy to Skin Highlight 2. Let's select the layer itself, Control-A, delete to get rid of the existing pixel information. And then in some of the more bright areas, we'll just create a secondary section that's a little brighter inside the original. So if you think about it, in the end, we have a total of 5 layers to our shading. If you were making a toon shader that simulated this effect, it would have to be 5 layers because we have our brightest shade, our next bright, down from there we have our diffuse, then darker, and then darker. So there's a total of 5 colors there that we're using. And put a little bit of this right here at the top. I like the idea of there's some being right here. And let me just go right down the center of that. Not too much, though. Now, this needs some. We really want to just make everybody say, look at my belly. Be amazed that I can go this long without working out. Knowing I've just made, several of the viewers indignant. They're like, but, well, I go a long time without working out. And don't worry, I do, too. Alright, let's see. I don't think we need to really worry too much about the shininess of the legs, because they're kind of away from everything. Now we can really bring out these cheeks, though. And the nose can have a little patch here. Maybe a little bit more here at the chin. And I'll even brighten up the lip there on the bottom just a little bit. Go over the tops of the brows. And that section there at the forehead. Okay. I think that'll do it. So if we back all the way out, I'll hit Control-D to deselect. So now we've got some nice depth, we've got some shine, everything kind of goes back and has some shadowing to it. So as far as the skin goes, I'm happy. So at this point what we need to do is start handling shadowing and any shininess for the other parts of the body, which we'll start by doing the leather pieces, which include the bracers and the armbands, the shoes and the belt, and we'll start doing that in the next video.